Hey guys, welcome back or welcome to the channel. This is Psycho here. It has been a while since I've done a video, but it was because I had a foot injury to start the year, and then I'm pretty sure I got COVID from my kids because they both had it, and then I was also sick. So that's why I haven't been on in a while. It's been a month, believe it or not, since I've done a video, so it's about time. Today's going to be a little different. I'm not doing pickups because I don't really have a lot. I missed a lot of work, so the little bit of money that I did make had to get me through until I was better from all the stuff I just mentioned. Excuse me. So it's not a pickups video. Today's video is I want to talk about my greatest gaming memories. Now, obviously, I haven't played every single system, so I'm going to go through the systems that I have played. And now, also a disclaimer here is there are a ton more memories that I have, but in order to keep this at least a decent length, I'm only going to go through maybe like 3 to 5 games for the systems that I talk about, and maybe explain my memories of even getting a hold of the system. So I'm going to start off with my first video game memory was the Atari 2600 when I was 5, I believe. It wasn't mine, and I wasn't super interested in it. Like, my brother would talk me into playing it with him every once in a while. And the games that I have the fondest memories, I guess this is called greatest gaming memories, would be playing Berserk for the first time and not being able to figure out why touching the wall was killing me. Because if I'm not mistaken, it's like I said, it's been a very long time since I played an Atari game. But I didn't even really know what I was supposed to do in the game. I was 5 years old, but I remember just touching the wall killed you. I'm pretty sure that's the case. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong. Maybe I was thinking of another game, but I'm pretty sure it was Berserk. And then, of course, Pac-Man. I remember playing Pac-Man over at my aunt's house a lot. I wouldn't say it was a greatest gaming memory, but it's one of the earliest for sure. The Pac-Man cartridge for the 2600. E.T., I remember. I think we even solved it. And, obviously back then there were no game guides or anything like that, so I don't know how we solved it, but for some reason I remember getting E.T. back to the ship. And if you guys have ever played that game, it's like super vague, and the things that you're supposed to collect, like what they are, they do not look like what they are. They just look like little blocks. So I'm not sure how me and my brother completed that game, but I'm remember doing so. And then Combat, which we had the 2 joysticks, so me and my brother would play Combat. You could shoot through the walls. You could play with tanks and people, and I'm pretty sure that was Combat. But yeah, that was probably my greatest memory because I understood it. Even that at that young, it's like, okay, move around these walls and shoot the other guy or shoot the other tank. That's simple enough for me. So I would say like Combat was probably my greatest Atari 2600 memory. Now, I didn't have any other consoles available to me. I don't think we never had a 5200 or a 7800 or any of those other, like, Colecovision. Now, this is not a greatest gaming memory for me, but my dad had a Colecovision when I was, 3, 4 years old. And I remember being in the kitchen while he played, because I remember sitting on his lap and hanging out with him while he would play the Colecovision, and he was always playing Burger Time. And obviously, I never got a turn, but I played Burger Time since, so it's cool. But yeah, I can remember, and he was really good at it. So yeah, never played a ColecoVision myself, but I remember watching my dad play it, and because that was like time that I was spending with my father, that I will count as the greatest gaming memory, is watching him, sitting on his lap and watching him play Burger Time for the 7800, or not 7800, ColecoVision? ColecoVision, yes. Okay, so then this is when I'm old enough to remember pretty much the rest of these memories, and I'm going to go through the systems. Now, keep in mind, guys, like I said, there's only going to be a couple games for each of these, and you're going to say, like, how do you not have the memory of playing, for example, Twisted Metal for the PlayStation? Because I have played Twisted Metal, but to me, that's not one of my greatest gaming memories. Fantastic game, love it, but I'm talking about either my greatest memory with a game that I can remember vividly and explain, or games that I had gotten when I first got the system and played and was kind of like awestruck a little bit by them. And if your memories are different, that is awesome. And that's kind of why I wanted to do this video, because I want you guys to leave comments and let me know what your crazy gaming memories are, whether it was, a game that you really love, or a cool way that you acquired your system as a kid, or maybe just you remember that Christmas you got your Super Nintendo as being one of the highlights, ever, like me when I got my Super Nintendo. So yeah, guys, this is meant to, like, let's share, because I'm interested to hear your story, read your stories, also, because, man, I have a lot of great memories of video games, and I know a lot of you that watch these are super into them also, and I feel like there's other really, really great memories to hear about out there. So feel free, please, to share in the comments your greatest gaming memories. I don't care if the newest system or the oldest system you played was like PlayStation 2. You for sure had awesome memories with that system. So, moving on to the NES. I didn't get the Christmas. I didn't get the NES until I think Christmas of '88. So it had been out for a few years. But like I said, when I was 5 years old, I wasn't really thinking about, like, oh, I want a Nintendo. I mean, I remember seeing the commercials for it and stuff like that, but I was 5, so I was still playing with my toys and stuff. I didn't care about it. I didn't care about it until my older brother came to stay with us, and we had moved to Florida. And in 1988, I asked for the Nintendo for Christmas that year, and I remember vividly me and my brother that Christmas Eve / Christmas morning kept getting up out of bed. I was so stoked to potentially have a Nintendo that there was no way I was sleeping at 8 years old. I was just waiting, because even before the Nintendo, the guy that my dad worked for, me and his son were friends, and the first time I had ever gone over to his house, his older brother, whose name was Tony, was playing a Nintendo. And it was not Super Mario Brothers. So, insanely enough, the very first Nintendo game I have ever seen was not Super Mario Brothers. It was actually The Legend of Zelda. And I remember very vividly that he was actually in a dungeon. And it was one of the green ones, not the blue ones. I don't remember which one it was now, but I just remember him going from room to room and, like, blowing up walls with bombs and killing these guys with his sword. When he had full health, he was shooting beams from his sword. And I was like, what is this? You know what I mean? It blew my mind. And that was about summertime. So when it got to around Christmas time, that was when I was like, I want a Nintendo. So that year, I remember, getting back to the story, we kept getting up all throughout the night. My brother had like a razor or something sharp that he was trying to make little slits in the wrapping paper so that we could see what it was. And we were trying to be so quiet, but I mean, we were young. So it was a thing of, like, we kept getting caught. I think we got a peek at one present, and it was a copy of Dragon Warrior for the NES. And it got to the point where my dad actually had to come out of his bedroom and sleep on the floor next to the Christmas tree. And that pretty much put an end to us going out there for the night. But I remember the next morning getting my NES, tearing it open. And yes, I did have a copy of Dragon Warrior, which I later found out I got because it was free when you got a Nintendo Power subscription, which my grandfather, can't even speak, grandfather had got me. So I had a Nintendo Power subscription when they came out. I had issue number 1. I don't anymore. I do have a bunch of old Nintendo Powers, but only maybe like 1 or 2 from back before 90. And boy, do I wish I still had. I had probably so many copies of the first issue of Nintendo Power, and I wish I even had one now. I really do. But yeah, I remember we had, obviously, Super Mario Duck Hunt that came with the game. the system, and Dragon Warrior. So some of my greatest memories. That's what we're gonna say. Some of my greatest memories, because like I said, I have so many awesome memories of so many games over so many consoles, but I'm only gonna go through a few. But Dragon Warrior actually was one of my earliest and fondest memories of the NES, because it was a game I had. Obviously the NES was new to me. I didn't have Zelda right away. I had Dragon Warrior and I had Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt. Super Mario Brothers. Once I had played that, obviously I played that at my friend Jonathan's. That's the kid who had the Nintendo. After his brother was done playing Zelda or whatever, we tried Mario, and I was like blown away by that. But everybody, the very first time they've ever played an NES and played, I mean, if you were around back then, the very first time you ever played Super Mario Bros., you were absolutely blown away. The crazy music that got stuck in your head, like all these pipes, like, hey, I'm going down the sewer pipe or drain pipe or whatever kind of pipe it is, and it's leading to like a land full of water with crazy, I don't know, are they octopuses? What are the bloopers or whatever they're called? Bloopers? I'm pretty sure that is. Like, are they squid? Who knows? All the secret warps, all the craziness. It was just like Super Mario Brothers. I don't really have to say too much about it, because if you were there for that, you absolutely understood how crazy it was to get a hold of There was nothing like it, Super Mario Brothers at the time. But then Dragon Warrior. Never played an RPG. At the time, I had no idea it was even called an RPG. I think it might say it on the box, but 8-year-old kid, I don't know what RPG stands for. My brother and me played it. My brother is a little older, so he understood it better and taught me how to play. And that game is an absolute grind when you first start out. Like, there's no other way to level up. You just grind and grind and grind until you're where you need to be to go to areas where you are powerful enough to kill the monsters. But that is a game where we finished that. We beat the Dragon Lord at the end of that game. So that was a fond memory, because luckily we didn't have a ton of games, so that's why I also think we put a lot of time into that. But it was great. I had a lot of fun playing with my brother. So Dragon Warrior is one of my greatest NES memories. And then let's see, Zelda 1 and 2. Like I already talked about the first Zelda. Zelda 2 was so different. You had the side-scrolling levels. You still collected items, but the item didn't necessarily have to be used in that particular palace. Like when you got the hammer, you could use the hammer to break rocks along the paths on the roads, on the overworld. I mean, it was just so different. And Zelda 2 gets a lot of hate, and I just don't understand why, because I thought the game was fantastic. Was it the same? No. It was different, but I think it was great. Like, I don't understand why Zelda 2 gets the hate that it does. It was great, and both Zeldas for the regular NES are some of my greatest gaming memories of all time. Fun fact, I haven't beat either of those games. I got all the way to Ganon and died. What else? Super Mario Bros. 2 and 3. Super Mario Bros. 2 was so different when I played it over and over and over. I beat it a million times, and I still play it. Even to this day, if the Nintendo was hooked up and a copy of it was laying around, like, I would still play it and have a blast. I love Super Mario Bros. 2. And same thing with Mario 3. That's another greatest NES memory. And you know what? I did pull out some games to show. Super Mario Bros. 3. So many secrets, so many things we discovered. Beat every world. Level 7 was ridiculously hard, where you just had to collect Invincible Star after Invincible Star to run across those invincible stupid munchers that you could kill, but only with the Hammer Brothers suit. Well, at least some of them you could kill. But the levels where the whole floor was those things, no, you just had to keep collecting the stars and hoping that you got to the next star in time. So many ridiculous memories. I can't even mention that, like the first time I discovered the warp whistles, like ducking behind the backgrounds, breaking the rock in level 2 to get the third warp whistle, the first time you fight Bowser. I mean, the airships were crazy. The fact that his kids are involved. One of my greatest memories all time is Super Mario Bros. 3 on the NES anyway. Now, and that's going to be it for the NES. No, that's actually not true. I have two more for the NES I pulled out because they're here. First time I ever played this. Never played anything like it. And of course, the first one I played was Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. Love this game. Once you learn all the patterns, you can kind of get through it pretty easily. I played this game a zillion times, and I can absolutely wipe the floor with everybody. But I have never, ever been able to beat Mike Tyson or Mr. Dream in the case of this version. I walk right through the entire game and then just get my ass handed to me by the final boss. I love this. I love this game. I absolutely do, and I would play it over and over and over and over, and still never be able to beat the final boss. And then one more memory was for the regular NES anyway. Was the first time I played this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game. My Walmart had a lobby in front of it, and this game was in that lobby, so I was playing the arcade game. And then when I found out that this was coming to the NES, I was like, man, there is no way that they're going to be able to pull off these graphics. And you know what? They didn't. The graphics were not as good as the arcade version, but I believe the Nintendo version has a few extra levels that weren't in the arcade. And even though the graphics were a little worse or whatever, it was still amazing. Another game that I could put in right now and have a blast. I'll get two controllers up and play this with my kid, and we would have a blast playing this game. The boss fights were amazing. Rocksteady, Bebop. At one point, I think in this one, you had to fight them both at the same time. Baxter Stockman in the sewer. Yeah, dude. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. One of my greatest gaming NES memories of all time. We're going to move on to the Super Nintendo. I got my Super Nintendo in Christmas of 1991 when it came out, and played Super Mario World the entire day, to the point where when, it's Christmas, so it's like, oh, come on, it's time for Christmas dinner, and I got pissed. I was like, I don't want to eat your dinner. I don't want to go out there and see any family members. I don't want to do anything. I want to play Super Mario World. I was a bratty kid. I was 11 years old the year that the Super Nintendo came out. And I mean, I obviously went out there and ate dinner with my family and did that kind of thing. But I don't think I even turned the Nintendo off. I think I just paused it until I was allowed to go play again. So that Christmas is memorable, and that is also another reason Super Mario World is memorable. Final boss fight, the crazy levels, Yoshi was introduced. I mean, one of the greatest Super Nintendo games of all time. And there's only a couple of games on here, and you're gonna be like, what about such and such game, such and such game? Because I understand. I have a million awesome Super Nintendo memories, but I only picked out a few for the sake of being able to talk about multiple systems. So again, share your greatest memories with whatever game that you really loved. Because there's no RPGs on this list. And I played the Final Fantasy 3. I played, Illusion of Gaia. I played Final Fantasy 2, a bunch of them, but they're not on the list because they, in my opinion, are not my greatest memories. Although Final Fantasy 3, if I had thought of that before these four, then I probably would have put it on this list. So that's like a runner-up. Final Fantasy 3, great game. Zelda, Link to the Past, and that one I actually have here. This is arguably, and I've talked about it a million times, my favorite game of all time. When this game came out, from start to finish, was an absolute fantastic game. I love this game. The graphics were so much better. The all the items were awesome. The secrets, like figuring out the ghost in the wooded area near the village. Just the weapon upgrades, the light and dark world, the palaces you had to fight, the final boss fight with Ganon and Death Mountain. I love it. I absolutely love The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. One of my greatest. Probably, I remember renting this. I didn't even own it. I rented it. And I remember staying up late at night until like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning until I just had to go to sleep. Just playing this game and being glued to the TV. Gosh, if you guys have never played this game, which that's crazy if you haven't, go do it after this video. Okay. Another Super Nintendo. game was WWF Raw. Now, the first one on the Super Nintendo was Super WrestleMania. That game was cool, but when Raw came out, that's the one that I spent all my time on. There was no time limit, there was no health bars. So what I would do was I would start matches with, with, where you could use weapons, and there wouldn't be disqualifications. And I would just spend, like, forever just beating the crap out of the other, the computer-controlled wrestler with chairs and whatever else I could find. And for some reason, that was fun to me, and it kept my attention for a long time. So one of my greatest Super Nintendo memories is playing WWF Raw and just beating the absolute snot out of everybody with chairs and whatever else they would let me get my hands on. And then finally, after doing that until I was satisfied, that's when I would get the pinfall. But I played WWF Raw a ton. It's one of my greatest Super Nintendo memories. And the last one, Donkey Kong Country. Nothing had ever been like Donkey Kong Country. And that was a game that I actually beat. And after I beat it, I went back to all the levels that I had already finished and 100% of the game. And that's crazy because I've never played Donkey Kong Country 2 or 3, and I have them, all three of them, complete in box. I actually don't know why I didn't bring down Donkey Kong Country to show, because I've been showing games. I guess I forgot to grab it, but I do have it, and I've showed it on these videos before. But yeah, Donkey Kong Country was one of those games where I went back and I 100%ed every single level, found every Kong letter. It was not easy, guys, don't get me wrong. It was not easy, but I did it and I enjoyed it. And I just remember, like, the clap traps and the basic Kremlins bouncing on their head, the barrels that would shoot you around, which, it was a staple in the series, but that was Donkey Kong Country 1, so it was all new to me. King K. Rool, the boss fight on the pirate ship. Donkey Kong Country is fantastic, and one of my greatest SNES memories. So, and that's what I have so far for that, the Super Nintendo. Like I said, there's so many more, and please share yours with me. Maybe if I ever do another one of these, I'll do all different memories from different games. But moving on to the Genesis, I got the Genesis a little bit later on, and I remember how I got it was I had been asking for one, but I already had a Super Nintendo, so it was a thing of like, I didn't get a Genesis until way later after it had been out. I had come home from school one day, and my dad called me over. He was sitting on the couch watching TV, and he called me over like immediately when I got home from school. And he started asking me like weird questions. I remember one of them was like, he's like, "Hey man, who was buried in Grant's tomb?" And I was like, "What?" It's like, Grant? And he's like, "Yes, you're correct." And he's like, "2 more for the win." And I was like, what is even happening? I should probably mention he was a big game show guy, so I mean, maybe that's why he did it. But I forget the other questions, but he gave the answer in the question, so I didn't get them wrong. So when I answered the 3 questions he sent me, he's like, "Oh, go look in my room." And on the bed was a Sega Genesis. I guess they had been running a sale I think he got it at Kmart. I guess they were running a sale on the system and a bunch of games, because there was a Genesis. This was just like a regular Tuesday after school. And I go in there and there's a Sega Genesis on the bed with 6 games, all brand new. And I was just like, what? And I can't remember all 6 games, but I remember The Little Mermaid being in there. And I never finished that game, but I did play it because I had it. And I don't remember hating it. That is not one of my greatest memories. It's just one that I remember having. But one of the games that I did have in there is, I think it might be worth money. I don't have it. I think it might be kind of pricey though. But it was a game called Alicia Dragoon. And for a long time later on, I would always confuse this with Panzer Dragoon. When they were like, "Oh, this is an on-rail shooter with dragons." And I was like, I don't remember it being that. I remember it being like a side-scroller, like where you had magic and weapons and stuff. But I was confusing it with Alicia Dragoon. One of my greatest gaming memories is playing that game. I never finished it, but it was very hard. But I believe one of the power-ups was lightning. The combat was fun. The graphics are really cool. So that one stuck with me. Like I said, it was hard and I never finished it, but it was probably one of my greatest. Like, I was pretty, awestruck by Alicia Dragoon. And then, of course, Sonic 1 and 2. The first time I ever played Green Hill Zone, or got to the level where you're underwater with that frantic music playing while it's counting down until you die from not having air, to all the different Dr. Robotnik things. The Sonic franchise is great, and I remember playing 1 and 2 more than any other one. I don't even remember ever playing 3. I'm sure I have. But, yeah. Sonic, what more can I say? And then there's one that's not on here, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. Streets of Rage 2. I remember now, that was the pack-in with the console that my dad got me with Streets of Rage 2. And I remember I love side-scrolling beat-em-ups. It's no secret. Final Fight is one of my favorite games of all time. But I played Streets of Rage 2 over and over and over, and I loved it. And I always played with Skate, because I love where you can jump on the back of the guy's head and punch him in the head. You can do that weird kick where you grab him and do that front kick right to his face, flip him over your shoulder. Yeah, I always use Skate every time I play that game. I love the boss fights. I love the music. The music in Streets of Rage 2 is so good. I can remember sitting there and putting Streets of Rage 2 on and not even playing it, but just going to the options and listening to the background music over and over, all the tracks. I absolutely love that, even as a kid. So Streets of Rage 2 is not on here because I didn't think of it until just now, but it is one of my greatest gaming moments as far as Genesis goes. And then Two Crude Dudes was supposed to be a spiritual successor to Bad Dudes, but it was very different. I mean, you still played 2 players, and you still had it was side-scrolling beat 'em up, but it was much more cartoony. And why it was memorable for me was because you could literally pick up anything in this game, including other enemies, and just chuck them at the bad guys. I'm talking other bad guys, street signs, mailboxes, trash cans, cars. Like, you pick up a car and throw it at the enemy. And I just remember it for being dumb, goofy, side-scrolling beat-em-up fun. And it was a great game, and I loved it. I don't believe I finished it, but I had a lot of fun with Two Crude Dudes, and that's a hidden gem. I believe it's kind of expensive now, but if you can get a hold of Two Crude Dudes for cheap, I suggest doing so because it's a lot of fun for the Genesis. And the last one was Mortal Kombat. I was a huge Mortal Kombat guy when I found out that the Genesis version was going to have blood, but with a code. I immediately found out the code so that I could play the game how I wanted to, and I proceeded to spend months playing Mortal Kombat 2. And going back to the Super Nintendo for 1 second, Street Fighter 2 is also an honorable mention. I played that game for months and months and months. Used Game Genie codes to try to play as the bosses, which would just glitch the game and freeze it up. But Street Fighter 2 and Mortal Kombat, for Street Fighter 2 for the SNES and Mortal Kombat for the Genesis, respectively, are some of my greatest gaming memories because I just put so much time into them and remember doing so many things in both of them. But I played Mortal Kombat for the Super Nintendo. My friend had it, and it was sweat instead of blood. Mortal Kombat for the Genesis was the way to go, and that is one of my greatest Genesis memories, was playing Mortal Kombat. I loved it. So we're going to move on to the N64. Now, wow, this is a half an hour already, so we're going to try to move a little quickly, but there is a story to this one too. I asked for an N64 the year that it came out. I believe it was 96 for Christmas. I was 16, and I wanted an N64 so bad because I wanted to play Killer Instinct Gold, and I wanted to play Mario 64. And I remember Christmas came, I opened up all my presents, there was no N64. I was super disappointed. I mean, I tried not to show that because I was 16. I tried not to show anybody that I was disappointed. But I wanted the N64 and I didn't get it. And I was disappointed, and I'm sure they knew. Well, for those of you who don't know, my birthday is December 26th, which is the day after Christmas. And I remember Christmas coming and going, and I was like, man, what a bummer. So the next morning, which is my birthday, my parents came in the room and were waking me up. And it was early, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, why are they getting me up right now? It's even my birthday, like, leave me alone, I'm sleeping. And then before I had even opened my eyes, I was just kind of like, what do you want? You know, my eyes were still closed. And they put something on me, and it was my gift. So I was like, okay, whatever. And when I opened my eyes and opened up the wrapping paper on the gift, it was an N64. They messed with me. they had it the whole time and decided that it would be funny to not give it to me on Christmas, which as a kid that sucked. But as an adult now, looking back, it's like I'd probably do something like that to my kids. And obviously there was no packing game with the N64, so they had another package, and obviously it was a game. They wrapped it anyway, but for sure a game. You can always tell when you got a game for Christmas. It was the box, and it was Killer Instinct Gold. So one of my greatest gaming memories for the N64 was playing Killer Instinct Gold for my birthday that year. And I remember my friends would come over and be like, "Hey man, come hang out outside. Come, let's go do something." And I was like, "Nope, playing Killer Instinct Gold today." And then I convinced them to come in, and once they played it, they were like, "What?" So yeah, Killer Instinct Gold, one of my greatest N64 memories. And of course Mario 64, because we had never seen anything like that in a Mario game. You could fly with the wings on the hat. It was in 3D. There was a lot of bosses, a ton of worlds to explore. The whole thing with Yoshi being on the roof later on after people discovered that was a thing. Super Mario 64 was a milestone and one of the greatest N64 memories that I have. And the last one, for me personally, were the WCW Nwo games. Not really sure why. I didn't get a lot of the same, like, beating the snot out of the guy like in Wwf Raw for the Super Nintendo. But I love the mechanics. I love the controls. The graphics were good for the time. And I just had a lot of fun with those games, and I played them constantly with friends and even by myself. So that would have to be one of my greatest N64 memories, would be the WCW Nwo games. And I can't remember specifically which one. I don't remember if it was World Tour or Revenge or whatever, or even both. So that's why I said games, because I remember playing multiples of those, and I enjoyed all of them, even more so than the WWF games at the time. And then, alright, so after that came the PlayStation. Alright, so the PlayStation, when I first got the PlayStation, this was one of the games that I got with it, Battle Arena Toshinden. Now going back and playing this game now, because I'm looking at the pictures on the back, I don't believe that this would hold up today. But let me tell you how amazing this was at the launch of PlayStation in 1995. I played this game over and over and over. I would try to get ring outs on everybody and play with my friends against the computer. I loved Battle Arena Toshinden. I was still kind of in the fighting game craze due to Street Fighter, I think Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo or whatever was out at the time. Mortal Kombat maybe had 2 or 3. Maybe I think Mortal Kombat 3 was out when this was out. So yeah, I was still fully into the fighting games. So I played this a lot when it first came. I had this game and I had the WWF Raw. What was it called? WWF the arcade game or something like that, where it was more like a Mortal Kombat Street Fighter style. I played that a lot also, but I always went back to this. One of my greatest PlayStation 1 memories is Battle Arena Toshinden. It's a great game. A lot of good characters, a lot of good moves for its time. I don't know how it'll hold up today. But let's see, what's another one? Resident Evil 1 and 2. Okay, so here's 2. I don't actually have Resident Evil 1. But Resident Evil 1 was so groundbreaking. The thing for me with Resident Evil was I was at Kmart with my dad, and it was just a standard day, and all of a sudden he says to me out of nowhere, he's like, "Hey, you want to pick out a PlayStation game?" Well, yeah. I mean, that never happened. And I remember going up to Resident Evil. I looked through the games, and Resident Evil caught my eye. And because of the artwork, it had Chris Redfield, which at the time I didn't know who that was. I was completely out of the loop with Resident Evil. I went into Resident Evil blind. So I was completely shocked, as opposed to some people who might have read about it in the video game magazines or whatever. And I was in full swing of reading the game magazines at that time too, but for some reason I don't remember ever reading any coverage of that. I went into the original Resident Evil blind. So we're at the store, and that's the game I eventually pick out. And the guy on the cover, Chris Redfield, looking scared with the gun and the giant spiders around him, and I'm like, wow, this is going to be a crazy shooter. But when I picked that game out, I fully expected it to be a shooter. Well, when I get home and pop it in, and that opening cutscene of them running from the dogs into the mansion, I was like, what is this? Still not thinking anything of it. Like, okay, so I'm going to be shooting dogs here in a minute. And then when they finally let you loose in the mansion, it was a thing of like, okay, the first time I saw the zombie turn his head, and I was like, whoa. The first time the dogs jumped through the window, the first time you went into the outside where you had to fight the plant boss, I can't remember what it was called now, and then giant spiders were in there, and just every single turn of that game was just not what I expected. And Resident Evil probably is one of my greatest PlayStation memories. I love the game. This one too, more of the same, from even finding the zombified pilot under the stairs before you get into the police station to get the crazy... I forget what the reward is for taking him out, but it was something crazy. But this game, never beat it. I've told the story about how I saved right before the final boss fight with only a knife, so I was done. I never finished this game, but I got all the way to the end. Resident Evil 1 and 2 are two of my top PlayStation memories of all time. And then this one, Tenchu. I got this game, I think it was on sale for like $20 or whatever. I thought it looked cool because I saw the ninja on the cover. I didn't know what I was getting into. And then when I played this game, from having to hide on the enemies, climbing from the rooftops, using distractions. I remember the level with the deranged cultists, all the crazy bosses. This game was amazing. And I played the other one, Tenchu 2, on the PlayStation also. But I don't have that one, and this one is my fondest memory. Tenchu Stealth Assassins, and I'm going to mention one more PlayStation game because it is Metal Gear Solid. I love Metal Gear Solid, and I was late to the party. I played Tenchu before I played Metal Gear Solid. What can I say? I mean, the controls, the boss fights, like the cinemas, everything about Metal Gear Solid for the PlayStation was fantastic. I love it, and it is one of my greatest PlayStation 1 memories. Fighting Sniper Wolf, Revolver Ocelot, Vulcan Raven, all of those bosses were just insane. And then fighting Liquid Snake on top of the head of the Metal Gear, and then the end when you're going through the tunnel. From start to finish, Metal Gear Solid is probably one of my very favorite PlayStation 1 games of all time. And we are pushing 40 minutes, and I'm still only at PlayStation 1. I might do a part 2 of this. And then, what was the other one? Oh, Intelligent Cube. It was a crazy puzzle game. I never actually had the game, but I had a demo disc that had the game on it. And me and my brother ended up getting into it, and it was a really, really cool game. I mean, we beat the demo, but we kept going back to it over and over because it was fun. We had a really good time. Never actually got my hands on the full game, but I remember that being one of my greatest PlayStation memories because I believe me and my brother were super into it, and that's how for a while we spent time together. So another thing of like, yes, the game was great, but I think it's one of my greatest PlayStation 1 memories because it was a time where me and my brother spent that we were having fun, that we were not at each other's throats, and we were also a little older, so we were to the part of the relationship where we were done picking on each other as kids and we were hanging out more. So yes, my brother Jimmy and me played Intelligent Cube a ton, and it was the demo anyway, and we always had a blast with it. So yes, since this is taking this long, I might actually do a part 2. I'll go through one more system. I'll do the PS2, and then we'll come back to the other stuff at a different video. So, story behind the PS2 was I kind of fell off. I didn't have a PS2 when it came out. Didn't care. Wasn't playing video games. I had an N64 sitting in front of my TV on the table, but it wasn't even hooked up. I was literally not playing video games anymore. And what had happened was some of my friends who were still gamers kept talking about this game where they were beating old ladies with baseball bats and stealing money from everybody and robbing cars and doing missions for the gangsters. And I was like, what game is this? And then I started reading up on it too. And obviously that game is Grand Theft Auto 3. Now, like I said, I didn't have a PlayStation 2. I had fallen out with games. Um, I don't know. I was just doing other things. I was hanging out with friends. I started playing guitar. We were doing music a lot. So, didn't have a lot of time for that. But when I heard people talking about that, and then I started reading about it, I was like, no, I absolutely have to check this game out. So, what I did was at the time I was working at a restaurant called Frank's. And I got my paycheck, and I went up to Walmart, which is right down the street from my house, and I put a PlayStation 2 and a copy of Grand Theft Auto 3 on layaway. Now, I paid it down over time, and then I remember a couple weeks later I had gone back there and I owed $150 on it. Well, I had probably $170, $180 left of my paycheck, and I'm thinking, like, I'm still relatively young, so I'm still living at home. I don't have bills, I don't think, I didn't have any bills. I didn't have to pay for food or anything, so I was like, okay, I could pay this $150, leave myself with like $30 or $20 or whatever it was until next week. I got paid weekly, and then be mad that I spent all of my paycheck in case my friends come over or whatever, and I just don't have any cash. And then I thought to myself, but on the other hand, if I drop the money to get this stuff off of layaway right now, I'm probably not going to leave the house. So, and I'm going to be playing this Grand Theft Auto 3, so I'm not going to really need any money for anything because I'm not going to go anywhere, I feel like. So, guess what? I got the PlayStation 2. And sure enough, man, once I hooked that up and I started playing Grand Theft Auto 3, like, from 8 Ball's Bomb Shop to, I can't remember a lot of the names on it. And that was one of the Grand Theft Auto 3 was nothing had ever been like that before. And my fondest memory, I would say, came later, like years later, honestly, because I played the hell out of that game, but I never finished it. I mean, I did, but not originally. I went back to it years later and played through it and realized that it didn't come with an in-game map. If you remember, the original Grand Theft Auto 3 did not have an in-game map. It came with the map in the case. And I used that map. You had to know where pay and sprays were. You had to know where certain things were. And I played that game to the point where I literally knew where everything was in-game without having to reference the map. It was like, oh, I got to get over to the other island. All right, I hang a left here. Oh, there's a pay and spray on this street. If I need to hit that on the way across the bridge, and once I go to that bridge, I hang a right, and if I just stay on that straightaway, it's the bridge to the other island. Like, I knew how to get everywhere in Grand Theft Auto 3 without referencing the map. Literally, every pay and spray, 8 Ball's Bomb Shop. The missions had markers, so you knew where that was, but I knew from memory where all the landmarks and all the rampages and everything were in Grand Theft Auto 3, and that's probably one of my greatest PS2 memories. And then, these two. Oh, well, this one. Metal Gear Solid 2. More of the same. Amazing stealth action from Kojima. I love Metal Gear Solid 2. I've beaten it several times. And, like I said, more of the same. It's a great game. A lot of fun boss fights. If you've never played it, play it. One of my greatest PlayStation 2 memories is finishing Metal Gear Solid, fighting the not the senator, that was in Revengeance. I forget what it was, like the president or whoever it was on the rooftop, and it was kind of a hard boss fight. But I finished Metal Gear Solid 2 multiple times. More cool weapons, cool codec conversations, fun gameplay. Metal Gear Solid 2 was great. Except people got pissed because you played as Raiden. I don't know. It didn't bother me that bad. I didn't mind it. The game was still amazingly fun. So, PS2. Yeah, Metal Gear Solid 2. What's next? Bully. I don't actually have Bully. I used to have the collector's edition. But Bully for the PlayStation 2. These are all pretty much Rockstar games, too. Because, man, they killed it in the PlayStation 2 era. But, yeah. What was I talking about? I was talking about... Bully. I remember when that came out, I played it nonstop. I mean, you played as the prep school guy, from pushing people into trash cans, to shoving guys in lockers, to going on panty raids in the girls' dorm, to not being on the property, skipping class and not being on the property, and then it getting too late to where, like, you fall asleep. Because you have to go back to your room and go to sleep in that game. And if you don't, you pass out wherever you happen to be and lose money. From beginning to end, Bully was fantastic. I loved every second of that game, and if you've never tried it, I urge you to go and try it. And then the next two are also Rockstar games. This right here, Manhunt, and to a lesser extent, Manhunt 2. Now, I'm only showing the Wii version because it's the only one I have. I don't have it for PlayStation 2, but when I originally played it, I did have it for the PS2. This one was cool. Not as good. This was more like you were like kind of fighting with yourself mentally. I believe the final boss of that game was like a mirror image of yourself. I'm pretty sure. But this one, first of all, when this was featured on the cover of EGM, like a year before it came out, I didn't know it was called Manhunt. All I saw was like what looked like a hockey mask. And I was like, whoa, they're making a Friday the 13th game. Sick. Well, I was bummed to find out that it was not a Friday the 13th game, but when I read up on the game and discovered what it actually was, I was hyped nonetheless. James Earl Cash, I remember the guy's name, was supposed to be sentenced to death, and it was faked. And the director, who you actually do get to encounter at the end, is making snuff films. And each level is a different snuff film, and you have to figure out, use stealth and, get violent, gory kills. There's 3 tiers of kills that you can do, and they were crazy. People say, like, oh, I'd like to see a modern-day Manhunt, and it's just never going to happen. Graphics are too good now, and this game is too violent. Like, it'd pretty much be like watching an actual snuff film. So, anyone who's wanting another Manhunt, sorry, guys, go back and play the first 2, because we're never, with the way technology is now, we're not getting another Manhunt. It's just facts. I would be shocked to learn that they were working on another Manhunt game. But anyway, just the violent kills in this game, the memorable showdown with Pigsy towards the end. If you don't know who Pigsy is, you're not in the know, and I'm not going to explain it. But the fight with Pigsy, and then the actual fight with the director, and then when you actually kill the director, I won't spoil it, but just how he goes out is also pretty gruesome. But yes, Manhunt is definitely one of my greatest PlayStation 2 memories. This game is also pretty friggin' hard too, but I have finished it. So yeah, Manhunt 2. And I think I'm going to end it, guys. We're almost at 50 minutes, and we're only at the PS2. So I'm going to do a 2-part episode of this, and the next one will have Xbox 360, or original Xbox 360, Xbox One, PS4, Switch, and Wii. So, yeah, that's what's coming up. I decided. I was going to try to do this in one video, but there's just too much to talk about. I got part 2 of this coming up, which I'll do soon, and I also have the Castlevania Collection Classic Edition coming probably Wednesday, so I'm going to do an unboxing of that. I've been waiting for it forever, and I finally got my shipping notification. So we're going to go ahead and do an unboxing of that. And I'll probably do some more pickups videos, but I haven't really gotten anything because, like I said, I was hurt and then sick, so not really hunting. But, guys, thanks for checking out the video. If you like what you see, hit the bell notification so you know when I'm posting another one. Be sure to like and subscribe. Thumbs up the video. Leave a comment with your greatest gaming memories, whatever system. If your oldest gaming memory is Pong, let me know, and let me know how incredible it was, because I think it's cool. Um, Thanks again, guys. Like I said, we're going to do more video game related stuff and probably get back to some music stuff too pretty soon. Thanks again for the support, and please, like I said, subscribe. It only takes a second and it helps me out greatly. We're trying to get to 50 so I can do my Xbox Game Pass Ultimate 1 month card I have that I'm back there that I'm going to give away once I hit 50 followers. If you win, I will just DM you the code and you will have Game Pass Ultimate for 1 month. And if you're an Xbox gamer and don't have Game Pass Ultimate, I don't understand, because it is the greatest deal in gaming right now. It is so worth the $15 a month that I'm paying for it. Um, anyway, guys, thanks again, and that's all I got. Stay tuned for part 2, and again, the Castlevania collection unboxing coming up soon too in the next couple of days. And that's it, guys. Psycho out.